What are some dark secrets in the place you work? I work at Applebee's. The 4 cheese mac and cheese is 1,800 calories. That's dark as shit. I guess it's not really that dark or a big secret, just something very few people know about. In the 70s and 80s, most commercial beekeepers in Canada poisoned all or almost all their hives to death every fall. The hives were then replaced by packaged bees in spring from the US. Used for the summer and then held again in fall. This was done just because packages from America were cheaper than the medication and labor involved with overwintering your hives. Especially as you can lose anywhere from 5% to 50% of your hives over winter. This doesn't happen anymore as the price of packages now vastly exceed the cost of wintering your hives. Even if it did become economically feasible again, I can't see it happening, as the public outcry would likely be huge if people found out this was happening. Like I said, not really a secret. Just something few people remember. The car dealership I worked at had it all. Half the staff was ducking each other. Most of them were married. Blackjack and poker games every hour on the hour in the body shop. The accountant sold pirated DVDs. Pot, coke, and prescription drugs were available in the detail shop. And most of us salesmen were drunk by noon. The sign in the front yard is more effective at preventing burglars than the actual burglar alarms. The burglar alarm just lets you know when someone decided to ignore the sign. Most of the staff is being laid off in 3 months. The company has already started hiring their replacements in India. They'll be told a week before Christmas at the rate management is getting their sheet together. I wish I didn't know. I hate keeping secrets and I just want to scream abandon ship. At the mall. I used to work a small company and the secretary was shared among the owners, salesmen and some of the workers. The worst thing is that she acted all high and mighty like the owned the company. And I guess in a way she did. She got preferential treatment and often the owner would pay her bills if she got behind. And rumor is that the owner paid off her car when she threatened to tell his wife. She was always invited to Las Vegas for trade conferences even though she had nothing to do with the trade besides answering phones and making appointments. We all knew what really happened on those trips. I work in the hazmat industry. Mainly spill recovery. Holy shit. If you work in industry, you need to look at your company's environmental policies. The company I work for works pretty closely with the EPA and our state environmental management agency. So we do a lot of jobs where other companies screwed up. Lead contamination is stupid high in so many places. I've seen visible mercury literally swept under a rug so that companies don't have to pay for remediation. This will get on you. Track throughout. And it will stay on your clothes or shoes for so long. Acid spills where the company wants to save some money. So they wash it off into public freshwater sewers. TL. Dr. Large companies don't like to spend money on environmental cleanup. So they do a lot of illegal stuff. Worked in a small hospital. We had a room titled Utility Closet, which was actually the morgue or body hold. Our ER was significantly far away from that room. So to transport dead bodies, we'd wheel the gurney down there with piles of laundry covering the body. Yep. That happened. I guess the hospital didn't want to tip people off there was a dead body passing them in the hallway. Not me, but my dental assistant teacher once had to cover for a new dentist. He pulls the wrong tooth on a patient and she told the patient that they missed some decay on the tooth next to it. And since they missed it, it was free. So they pulled 2 teeth and the guy thinks he got a deal. This ducking pisses me off. Before I got braces I had to have 2 teeth pulled. I got to the dentist and he's like, no, it's 4. Young 12-year-old Shimey says, are you sure? I thought it was 2. He insists it's 4. Get it done. Go out to my mum waiting and tell her and she starts crying. The worst thing is I was already missing 2 teeth from the bottom and now I'm down 4. It looks like shit to this day. Even after the braces. One of the head guys was arrested for child pornography. And no, I'm not talking about Subway. Not exactly a secret, but since a large part of the work involves being with kids without parents around, the company did their best to keep quiet. Edit. I'm getting a lot of replies asking if this happened in X or Y state. To clear it up, it happened in Ohio. It's very sad to me that so many people have seen this in their area as well. At least half of the people who handle your food, both in restaurants and retail, and really any other retail, have some sort of cold or flu at the time, and are probably contagious. Very few retail or service industry job pay well enough or have benefits that make it possible to take sick days. And the management will guilt people into working even though they are sick, because the company can't handle being short-staffed. It's a fairly open secret. I work in a small plumbing repair store. There were 3 of us there, including the owner. Shot himself in the head while we were open. At least 4 people have died here in the past 4 years. And the local govt is in cahoots with the CEO. My own debt manager was involved in a huge embezzling scandal a few years ago but managed to wiggle free. Edit. Moise. My highest rated comment is about the greasy casino I work at doing greasy things. The dream. I write software for a large credit union. We don't use any version control. No JIT. No SVN. Nothing. At my last job, we had like 40 manager types who did absolutely nothing. And shit rolled downhill to about 3 guys who did all the ducking work in the whole company. As one of the people that all the shit rolls down to. This sickens me the most. And there is nothing I can do about it. I'm trying to figure out the dark secret at my work. I know there is a secret because we work in a factory in the US. No experience required. We are paid $5 more than minimum wage. We have full benefits. And we hire everyone from hardcore alcoholics to convicted felons. Something is going on here. Factories usually pay more than your local McDonald's. Nothing shady there. Should also check what managers get compared to workers. If it's not considerably higher, then it checks out. I worked in a store for building supplies and, as many people already suspect, we, the service personnel, truly try to dodge out as many customers as possible. We're basically like store ninjas, running from shelf to shelf and hiding from customers. That is though because we're also the people to refill all the shelves. Take care of the gardening section with all the flowers. Make sure everything looks properly, and we just won't get finished if we would deal with every question. Don't work there now. But a past story. I worked in the mailroom offices services department of a large health insurance company. We handled shipping and receiving and made sure that all departments had all the working supplies they needed. We got a call from our supervisor saying that one department was going to be archiving a lot of old records, so we needed to supply them with a bunch of boxes. We purchased a shit ton of new banker boxes and emptied out printing paper boxes so they could use those. The next day there was a completely unexpected huge layoff. Myself and the other 2 guys watched from the windows while lines of people marched out with their possessions in the boxes we'd supplied. Worked for a place where the ad manager took dozens, maybe hundreds, of computers home for his own personal use and to give to the religious school where his kids attended. His wife worked, and he was a deacon. He also gave computers to the school district superintendent and some of the other execs. He and these same execs hired their relatives to put them on the payroll. The ad manager had his mother placed in one of the schools as an ed tech, though she was completely and utterly incompetent with fixing computers. She was unable to pass the simple test that all the other techs had to pass and a risk of termination. One summer he fired our Linux administrator and brought in his 16-year-old sister and cousin, and 2 daughters, both 17-year-old, of the execs to work on the district's payroll. He also hired his brother-in-law, a recently unemployed banker, to be a database administrator. This DBA then went to his Bill's construction site and worked on it all day long. The levels of system nepotism and corruption, or corruption and nepotism, were shocking and intolerable. I work for a company that sells auto parts online. We have about 25 different store names. So whichever company you think you're buying from on eBay or Amazon or any number of comms, there's a very good chance it's actually us. There are any number of products on Amazon where every single seller on the list is us. It's also comical how many times people will say I bought from so and so and it was terrible. So glad I went with you instead. Little do they know they're talking to the same customer. One of my bosses and his wife coerced one of my female co-workers into a threesome. They threatened to fire her if she didn't go along with it. They offered her an expedited transfer for doing it. She did it. And still got canned. Edit. This post spurred me to do some digging. Her position was in no way threatened. I was very wrong. Your prescriptions are filled by unqualified people who don't always wear gloves or masks. The controlled substance pills are especially dirty. If a pill is dropped, there is a lot of paperwork to fill out that the pharmacists don't feel like doing, so they'll throw it back into your prescription vial and send it off. I work in a distribution pharmacy. Secrets yes. Dark not sure. First that comes to mind is the managers found out that one of the employees was homeless and living in the warehouse a week before Christmas. They fired him. This is Illinois. So the last few winters have not been balmy. Another was $500,000 in tools and tool storage was stolen in one night. They never found the merchandise nor the truck. The management based promotions on oral favors. This would happen at another job too. But what was worse at the second job was we sold sporting goods. And they used the stowaway camping cot in the upstairs loft during the overnight shifts for their fun time sessions. All of the employees, including the regular 9-5 office workers, are employed as independent contractors so the owner can get out of paying taxes, benefits, overtime and abiding by family and medical leave regulations. There are also a lot of pay irregularities. And sometimes the owner simply refuses to pay for time that was worked. She pays based on the amount of time that she thinks something should take, not the amount of time it actually takes. I'm pretty sure this is all illegal, but I don't know what to do about it. I used to work at a weld shop that made a lot of stuff for military contracts. Shortcuts were taken at every opportunity which compromised the product. Welds that were supposed to be checked by a certified weld inspector, CWI, were not. Documents were faked. Lots of things went out that door to our military and other government organizations that should not have. On top of all that, there were little to no safety precautions taken there. The owner himself tried to come out into the shop and tell me to weld on a 16-ton frame while it was suspended in the air by a crane with a 10-ton capacity. He wanted me to stand under it and make the welds on the bottom of it. That's just one of many dangerous situations he tried to put me in. One day he told me to do something, and I didn't know any better. Then an older welder came by and told me to stop because it could kill me. A few seconds after I walked away, a piece of hydraulic equipment I was working with failed and went flying right past where I was previously sitting. I would have died if that old timer hadn't told me to stop. I used to work in childcare while I was at uni. The majority of kids there were pretty good, but around 1 in every 30 kids were horrible. So there was one in particular who was a little sheet. Wouldn't pay attention. Annoying, and anytime someone even said something to him he'd get physical and act like the victim when the staff confronted him. I honestly couldn't stand him, but after a year of being there I realized he was a troubled kid, so I thought I'd try to be easier on him. I was hard but fair with the kids so they wouldn't mess around with me, but I'd give them more freedom and playing time. I told him to come straight to me if anyone gave him any trouble so I could ensure they were separated and that he wouldn't get into trouble. He was good at first and I started to see a softer side to him, but he eventually just slipped back into his old routine of punching then acting like he did nothing wrong. Turns out a close family member had been molesting him since he was like 4 and he didn't want to identify who it was because he didn't want to get anyone in trouble. We were notified because some family members had to stay away from him, so if they came to pick him up we'd refuse. Parents would constantly complain about him and some even confessed to me how much they hate him and how his mother must be a terrible parent. I just kept my mouth shut about it and tried to change the topic. There's a sweet kid in there somewhere but he just doesn't show it. I often think about what he's doing now. Edit. Formatting. One of our cooks was quietly let go because it was found out she was having an affair with the boss, who co-owns the restaurant with his wife. The owners are getting a divorce and I think he's still with the ex-cook. I work for a bank. If you've fallen behind on your bills and are wondering why it seems like the bank is doing everything in their power to make life as difficult as possible for you, it's because they are. They know exactly what they're doing, and when you finally get to the point where you say I've been a solid customer for 20 years but this is unbelievable, I'm closing all my accounts and taking my business elsewhere, you've completed their plan. As soon as you become a hassle for them, they want to get rid of you. I used to have a coworker make me give him a handy every day at work. Sure, I was self-employed and worked at home, but it was still hard to look myself in the mirror every day. I used to work in the Patty Library at Penn State University. 46 years ago. Almost to the day. On the 28th of November 1969. A student was murdered in the stacks. Her name was Betsy Ardsma. And she was at SU studying English as a grad student. Anyway. Betsy was in the stacks when she was attacked and stabbed once through the left breast. Into her chest. She died at the scene. Her murderer was never found. Despite this happening mid-afternoon in a busy library. They also say she haunts the library. But that's a story for another day. We, Target team members, mostly get paid less than Walmart employees. And they get better raises. We're friendlier, but it's mostly because it's literally in our core roles to be friendly to guests. And Target cares about those survey scores way too much. If you choose the option that says we didn't seem to genuinely want to help you, they start reminding us to be friendly and smile and greet every guest. If you ever have a great experience with a team member, get their name and mention it on the survey. Or fill out a customer comment card if you get a chance. I had a fling with my district manager's daughter. He's a douche-up. She's hot. And everyone knows, but they haven't told him. The car wash guys and some office people sell pot. And my old mentor was quite the drug aficionado. Pills. Coke. Weed every day, it didn't matter. My district manager is a moron and lost our company close to $30,000 in the past month. On Friday every person at the shop isn't sober by noon. Mostly just mixed drinks. Some smoke a joint. Some go to the bathroom and bump coke. We cheat on our online feedback forms so corporate doesn't duck us. We overestimate our completion dates for customer satisfaction. They get excited when we finish 2 weeks early. At the moment that's all I can think of. Oh, the joy of working in the automobile industry. I worked in a large bank where they did a massive employee satisfaction survey. But we were told how to answer. Specifically, how we better answer. I worked at a public school where the principal had multiple affairs with staff. And misappropriated money in order to get himself new technology and gadgets. Ironically, it was the most successful school in the city by any measure. I worked at a prominent Christian television station in the US. I was in a remote broadcasting studio but got lots of gossip from my manager. Lot of allegations of rape by the owner's family members, some settled out of court. Gums drawn on people who didn't go along with the flow. Huge misappropriation of funds. Embezzlement. And of course, lots of affairs with married people. Glad I left that place. Even though they offered me a better position right as I was turning in my 2 weeks. I work in an outpatient surgery center. A few years ago, one of the scrub techs was caught stealing fentanyl, a synthetic opioid similar to morphine. One of the other techs found a bloody needle in a supply room. Got suspicious and investigated. Eventually he caught him in the act. He was immediately fired and reported to the authorities. He was the kind of guy that everyone on our unit loved. He was fiends with most of us outside of work and even lived with one of the techs for a while. No one saw it coming, and despite many efforts to contact him, none of us have heard from him since. Hope I'm not too late on this one. I work fast food and our main chef is a freak. I work at the front with the customers and I often hear him laugh in this maniac high-pitched voice in the kitchen. It just freaks me out and the customers don't even seem to care. From time to time, his mentally handicapped friend comes around and orders something after taking an eternity to decide what he'll be having for lunch. My boss even gave him a job one time but he actually frightened the customers, so that was that. One day after hearing my coworker laugh like the ducking psycho he is, I peeked over my shoulder to see him cuddling the burger he has just prepared like it was some kind of teddy bear. I brought it up to our boss since it's unhygienic and disrespectful to our customers. But nothing came of it. Worse of it all, this guy and his friend are my next door neighbors and I can hear him laugh at night from his stupid pineapple house.